Hello class. Today we're going to look at solving and graphing one-step inequalities. This is the first lesson of 2. In this particular lesson, all we're going to do is learn to read and write inequalities and then graph them on a number line. Now in this particular video, there are 4 vocabulary words that we're going to be looking at. Okay, 3 of them are really important. Inequality, algebraic inequality, solution set. In the next video, we'll be talking about compound inequality. So let's first talk about what is an inequality? An inequality states that 2 quantities either are not equal or may not be equal. Okay, so that's what's really important. Now last year you began talking about inequalities, and they are these symbols down here in the bottom. Okay, so we've got a less than symbol, we've got a greater than symbol, less than or equal to, and a greater than or equal to. So what I'd like for us to look at is, 1, what's the meaning of each of these? Now I just went over those just a second ago. So this first symbol means, oops, sorry about that. This first symbol means less than. Now in math, a lot of times when we deal with inequalities, we're going to be looking at them in language arts sentences. So we have to understand words that represent these symbols. Okay, so a less than symbol, a couple of words that may reference that or may talk about less than is fewer than or below. Okay, the next symbol is a greater than symbol, and some words that represent that are more than or above. This next symbol, you just started touching on it last year, and it's got a bar underneath it, and that bar means that it can be less than or equal to and still make the statement true. So that one means is less than or equal to. Some words that we use to represent that are at most and no more than. And the last one that we have is a greater than or equal to. Okay, notice it does say less than or equal or greater than or equal to. It can't be both. Okay, and some words that represent greater than or equal to are at least, no less than. So what I'd like for us to do is look at some language arts phrases and see if we can translate them into an inequality statement. Here are our first 2. It says, write an inequality for each situation. In this first one it says, there are at least 15 people in the waiting room. Now we think about waiting rooms, and waiting rooms are like at doctor's offices, a mechanic's office, any place that you're having to sit and wait on a service to be taking place. So this says that there are at least 15 people in the waiting room. So this at least 15 is important. So what you're going to do in an inequality statement is you're going to pick a variable. In this particular one, we're talking about people. So I'm going to use the variable P. Then I'm going to put the 15 down. Now what I need to know is that 15, is that going to be a minimum number or a maximum number? Okay, and that will determine the symbol that we use. Now this one says at least 15. So that means that the number of people in the waiting room are actually either 15 or more. So that means the number of people here is really greater than or equal to 15 because it says at least 15. And if you go back and look at the chart that we just looked at least is a greater than or equal to. Okay, so let's look at another one. The tram attendant will allow no more than 60 people on the tram. Well, a tram is like a bus. Okay, so it says will not allow no more than 60 people on the tram. So I'm going to again use P for people. Okay, and 60 is our number. Now is that number a minimum or a maximum? It says no more than 60 people. So that means this number here has to be smaller than 60. So a less than, but could 60 be on there? Yes. So it's less than or equal to. So what I'd like for you to do is pause the video and you try these 2 on your own. Okay, let's see how you did. It says there are at most 10 gallons of gas in the tank. Okay, so at most is our key phrase. 10 gallons of gas, I'm going to use G, and I'm going to use 10. Now it says there's at most 10 gallons of gas. So if we go back and look at our words here, at most is a less than or equal to. Okay, so this is G is less than or equal to 10. At most 10. Okay, so that means it's actually smaller than that. Okay, B, there is at least 10 yards of fabric. Okay, so at least and then 10 yards. So I'll use the letter F for fabric and the 10, and at least 10 means that 10 is actually a minimum number. So the fabric has more than 10 yards. So what I'd like for you to do, I want you to try 9 more on your own. Pause the video, and write an inequality statement for each one of these. And then we'll come back and check them. Okay, let's see how you did. This first one says you need to score at least 30 points to take the lead. You should have 30 is greater than or equal to, S is greater than or equal to 30. And the letter really doesn't matter which one you use. So as long as you don't use the letter I, we're good. Okay, number 2. There are less than 12 hours of daylight each day in winter. Light is less than 12. Number 3. The bus seats at most 60 people. So bus is less than or equal to 60. Number 4, a coupon is good for any item that costs less than $10. Okay, so it's got to be less than 10. So that one's kind of a given one. Cost is less than $10 for coupon. Okay, number 5, a score of at least 92 on the test is considered an A. Okay, well, the score's got to be at least, so score is greater than or equal to 92. The baby weighed more than 7 pounds at birth. Weight is more than 7. Victor drives less than 12,000 miles per year. Miles is less than 12,000. Your waiting time will be 18 minutes or less. Time is less than or equal to 18. And at least 15 students must sign up for the school trip. School trip is less than or equal to, or students is less than or equal to 15. And that's how you write an inequality statement. The next thing we have to look at is how do I represent an inequality statement? We do that with a graph. An inequality that contains a variable is called an algebraic inequality. A value of the variable that makes the inequality true is a solution of the inequality. So algebraic inequality is just an inequality with a letter in it. But this next part's really important. Oops, sorry about that. This next part right here. An inequality may have more than one solution. Together, all the solutions are called the solution set. That's a very important thing. In equations, the equal sign says there's one answer. We have one answer that makes it true. With an inequality, though, you can have multiple answers. Okay, so let's see how we can represent them. And we do that on a graph. Okay, if you look at the bottom line there, it says you can graph the solutions of an inequality on a number line. If the variable is greater than or less than a number, then that number is indicated with an open circle. Take, for example, this first one. We have the inequality that's A is greater than 5. Okay, so we put an open circle on 5. And we shade to the right to represent all the numbers greater than 5. But 5 is not included. If the variable is greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to a number, that number is indicated with a closed circle. So the inequality B is less than or equal to 3. Okay, the equal to means that we start at 3, but I can include 3. And I need all values smaller than -3. Okay, so let's see if we can actually do some of those. So here's a couple. This first one says n is less than 3. So that means I go to 3 and I put a open circle on 3 because it says less than 3, but it doesn't include 3. And I need all values less than 3. So I shade to the left because all the values to the left of 3 are less than 3. For B, A is greater than or equal to -4. So I put a closed circle on -4 because I can include -4. But I need all values greater than or to the right of -4. And what you find out is if the letter is on the left-hand side of the inequality statement, the inequality points the direction that it needs to go. So less than is to the left, greater than is to the right. So you try 2 more, and then we'll be done for the day. Okay, let's see how you did. Okay, for the first one, it says P is less than or equal to 2. So I put a closed circle on 2, and I shade to the left. Okay, for B, E is greater than -2. So I put an open circle on -2, okay, and I shade to the right. So what we've learned today is we've learned how to write inequalities, and we've learned how to represent inequalities on a graph. In the next lesson, we'll learn how to solve inequalities. Until next